XRP holders, take a breath for a moment because what we are witnessing right now is not random, it is not coincidence, and it is definitely not something that happened overnight. For 4 long years, patience was tested, conviction was questioned, and belief was pushed to the edge. Many walked away, many doubted, and many stayed silent, watching, waiting, enduring. This moment is not about hype, it's about survival, endurance, and what happens when pressure doesn't break something, but instead forges it. If you're still here watching this, you're not here by accident. You're here because you stayed when it was uncomfortable. You stayed when the headlines were negative. You stayed when nothing made sense on the charts. And now suddenly the conversation is changing, not loudly, not recklessly, but deliberately. Before we go any further, if you are someone who values clarity over chaos, understanding over noise, and patience over panic, tap the like button and subscribe. It helps this message reach the people who need it most, especially those who endured the same long road you did. For years, XRP was trapped in a narrative that had nothing to do with its technology and everything to do with uncertainty. Uncertainty creates fear. Fear creates hesitation, and hesitation keeps people distracted from what's really happening beneath the surface. While attention was focused on price, something much deeper was unfolding. 4 years is a long time in crypto. Entire projects were born, exploded, and disappeared in less time. Trends came and went. Fortunes were made and lost. And through all of it, XRP remained under a microscope. Every move analyzed, every silence criticized, every delay amplified. But here's what most people don't understand. Real systems don't evolve on social media timelines. They evolve on infrastructure timelines. Financial rails don't rebuild themselves in months. Legal clarity doesn't form in weeks. Institutional confidence doesn't arrive because of tweets or hype cycles. It arrives because pressure was faced, tested, and survived. XRP didn't just survive scrutiny, it was shaped by it. While the market chased speed, XRP was forced to master patience. While others avoided regulation, XRP confronted it directly. While noise dominated attention, quiet progress continued behind closed doors. This is why what's happening now feels different. Not louder, not crazier, just heavier. Because when something has been held down for years, the release isn't explosive, it's controlled, it's intentional, and it's grounded in structure. A lot of people misunderstand what endurance really means. Endurance is not blind belief. Endurance is staying alert without becoming reactive. It's continuing to observe without surrendering to emotion. It's choosing understanding when others choose escape. XRP holders didn't just hold an asset, they held a position in a system that refused to break under pressure. And pressure reveals truth. During those 4 years, markets taught hard lessons. They showed who was here for quick gains and who was here for long-term positioning. They showed how fear can distort perception and how silence can be mistaken for failure. The truth is, nothing about XRP's design ever depended on short-term excitement. Speed, cost efficiency, scalability, interoperability, these are not features built for hype. They are built for systems that must function when nobody is watching. And that's exactly why the wait was long. Because systems that integrate with global finance don't move fast. They move correctly. There were moments when it felt like nothing was happening. Moments when charts went flat, moments when the community felt forgotten, but those moments were not emptiness, they were compression, and compression always precedes movement. Think about how financial institutions operate. They don't adopt technology because it's trending, they adopt it because risk has been defined, because frameworks exist, and because failure scenarios are understood. That process takes time, painfully slow time. XRP was forced to go through that process publicly. Every other project learned in private. XRP learned in public. That distinction matters because surviving public scrutiny creates a different kind of resilience. It creates a track record that cannot be erased by market cycles. It creates familiarity with pressure that newer projects haven't even faced yet. 4 years of endurance doesn't just test belief. It filters participants. Only those willing to tolerate uncertainty remain, and uncertainty is the environment where long-term positioning is built. Now, the narrative is shifting, not dramatically, not emotionally, but structurally, and structure is what moves markets before price ever reacts. This is where many people get confused. They expect price to lead significance. In reality, significance leads price. Always has, always will. By the time price tells the story is already old. The real question is not what happens next on a chart. The real question is what kind of system emerges after 4 years of resistance. Because resistance doesn't just slow progress, it refines it. XRP was not allowed to rush. It was not allowed to skip steps. It was not allowed to operate in gray areas. That forced clarity. Clarity in design, clarity in purpose, clarity in role. That clarity is rare in crypto. Most assets rely on momentum. XRP relied on endurance. That difference changes everything. And this is why long-term holders feel something different right now. Not excitement, not greed, recognition. Recognition that something survived what should have broken it. And systems that survive stress don't disappear quietly. They integrate, they embed, they persist. This isn't about celebration, it's about acknowledgement, about understanding that 4 years of patience wasn't wasted time. It was preparation. If you've stayed this far into the video, you already understand something most don't. And if this resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed, because this story doesn't end here. It unfolds. And what unfolds next only makes sense when you understand what was endured before it. And what unfolds next only makes sense when you understand what was endured before it. Because endurance changes perspective. It strips away impatience and replaces it with awareness. It teaches you the difference between noise and signal, between temporary distraction and permanent infrastructure. That's why this moment feels heavy, not loud. It feels earned, not manufactured. For 4 years, XRP holders watched markets reward speed while punishing patience. They saw projects with no real-world grounding explode overnight, only to fade just as quickly. They saw narratives rise on nothing more than speculation and collapse under the slightest pressure. And through all of that, XRP remained exactly where it was meant to be, inside the conversation that actually matters. That conversation isn't happening on social media timelines. It's happening in regulatory rooms, institutional frameworks, and global financial planning sessions. It's happening where excitement doesn't matter, but reliability does. Where promises mean nothing, but execution means everything. The hardest part of endurance is silence. Silence creates doubt. Silence makes people question whether anything is happening at all. But silence is also where real work gets done. It's where systems are tested without applause. It's where problems are solved before they're announced. XRP's story over the last 4 years has been one of forced maturity. It wasn't allowed to hide behind ambiguity. It wasn't allowed to pivot endlessly. It wasn't allowed to avoid scrutiny. And that pressure carved definition into its role. Definition is power in finance. Undefined systems scare institutions. Defined systems attract them. That's why this phase feels different. It's not driven by hype cycles or influencer excitement. It's driven by alignment. Alignment between technology, regulation, and use case. Most people underestimate how rare that alignment is. Think about how many crypto projects exist today. Thousands. Yet only a small fraction are even considered in serious conversations about financial infrastructure. And fewer still are forced to prove themselves under real legal and regulatory pressure. XRP didn't get the luxury of avoidance. It was tested in the open. And surviving open testing changes perception. It changes how risk is evaluated. It changes how credibility is assigned. It changes how future integration is viewed. This is why the last 4 years weren't a delay, they were a filter. They filtered out weak conviction. They filtered out short-term thinking. They filtered out participants who needed constant reassurance. What remained was a core that understands something fundamental. Markets don't reward comfort. They reward discipline. That discipline shows up when nothing seems to be happening, when charts are flat, when sentiment is cold, when attention is elsewhere. That's where positioning is built. The irony is that when attention finally returns, most people assume something suddenly changed. In reality, the change happens slowly, quietly, and far from the spotlight.